Good morning, I'm Mai Rodriguez sitting in for Mikey Oreta. You're watching Business 360 where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. The headlines. Former Health Secretary and current Iloilo Representative Janette Garin warns of adverse effects on the Philippines by the U.S. withdrawal from the World Health Organization. Ultra-billionaryo Ramon Ang is working overtime to improve services at the country's main gateway. And U.S. President Trump sanctions Colombia for turning away 2 U.S. aircraft transporting deported migrants. First, let's take a look at how financial markets performed overnight. Wall Street's main indices closed lower on Friday as investors prepared for a week filled with economic releases and a Federal Reserve meeting. The technology sector was the biggest drag on the market as mega-cap stocks, including Nvidia, reversed after rallying sharply earlier in the week. At the end of a relatively light week for data, traders were betting the Fed would keep borrowing costs unchanged at its upcoming meeting.
This week we saw the S&P 500 make a new historic high, and today we're sort of digesting that, flat to a little bit down. I don't think anyone's going to reach conclusions about the action today in the market. What we're really going to take from all of this is that there is, optimism with some caution with the new administration stepping in. And when we look across the market, we do know there's that handful of top 10, top 15 S&P 500 stocks that are richly valued and have had tremendous runs. But that leaves us about 485 stocks that are at very reasonable valuations and have not fully participated. So this is still a very attractive market moving forward for investors.
The S&P 500 slipped 0.29%, the Nasdaq also down by 0.5%, and the Dow Jones lower by 0.32%. European markets were mixed. The UK's FTSE 100 was down by 0.73%, Germany's DAX lower by 0.1%, and France's CAC 40 added 0.44%. Former Health Secretary and current Iloilo Representative Janette Garin calls on the government to strengthen its ties with other Asian countries to counter the repercussions of U.S. President Donald Trump's actions. These include the U.S. withdrawal from the World Health Organization. George Cahiles has the details.
I withdrew from the World Health Organization.
The looming withdrawal of the United States from the WHO has raised global concerns, especially among health experts. The U.S. is WHO's top donor, contributing nearly $1.3 billion from 2022 to 2023. In the Philippines, WHO-supported programs, including universal health care, received nearly $30 million in funding from 2022 to 2023. Of which around $8 million came from the U.S.
Ang importansya ng WHO, lalong-lalo na yung funding galing sa Amerika, ay yung pondo sa surveillance, where actually they share information. Sila yung pinanggagalingan ng critical na impormasyon para makapaghanda yung bawat bansa. Instead na meron tayong impormasyon na pinagkukunan yung ating surveillance system, wala tayong pagkukunan. So before you know it, kalat na, no? Parang yung COVID, kung hindi nalaman ng buong mundo yan, tila yung preparasyon, nahirapan talaga tayo.
Aside from withdrawing from the WHO, the Trump administration had previously halted almost all financial aid worldwide. As a result, many other health projects in the Philippines may be in limbo. In 2024, U.S. financial aid to the Philippines totaled nearly $152 million. This includes efforts to combat tuberculosis, control epidemics like HIV/AIDS, and support maternal and child care as well as family planning initiatives. Also, the U.S. government temporarily halted the dissemination of information from its health-related agencies such as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, National Institutes of Health, and Food and Drug Administration. Malacanang earlier said that the Foreign Affairs Department is coordinating with its U.S. counterparts to assess the impact of the foreign aid freeze on the Philippines. For 2025, the House-approved budget of the Health Department was slashed by nearly 26 billion pesos. The state insurer PhilHealth was not granted any state subsidy. Mga ngahulugan po ba yan na mas mangailangan tayo ng karagdagang government funding sa health sector ngayong 2025? Probably supplemental budget?
That is a possibility. Pero hindi talaga natin kakayanin mag-isa dahil maliit tayo na bansa. It's now time to really strengthen our alliances with our Asian countries. Sasandal tayo sa ASEAN. Andiyan dyan yung Singapore, andiyan dyan yung Japan, andiyan yung Korea, even Thailand.
Despite ongoing territorial disputes in the West Philippine Sea, Garin expressed hope that the Philippines and China can find common ground and collaborate on health initiatives to address the gaps caused by U.S. decisions. George Cahiles, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
The Trump administration is carrying out targeted immigration enforcement actions. That's according to White House border czar Tom Homan. He says the operations are focused on individuals deemed a national security or public safety threat. Asked whether immigration and customs officers would be entering off-limit spaces such as schools and churches, he says it would be determined on a case-by-case basis.
But you can see the number steadily increase, the number of arrests nationwide as we open up the aperture. Right now it's concentrating public safety threats, national security threats. That's a smaller population. So we're going to do this on priority base as President Trump's promised, but as that aperture opens, there'll be more arrests nationwide.
President Trump said he will impose retaliatory measures on Colombia after its government turned away 2 U.S. military aircraft transporting deported migrants. Washington is imposing 25% tariffs on all goods coming into the United States, which will go up to 50% in 1 week. There will also be a travel ban and visa revocations on Colombian government officials and its allies. The U.S. will also implement financial sanctions and enhance border inspections of Colombian nationals. Trump said the action by Colombian President Gustavo Petro jeopardized U.S. national security. Colombia's decision follows one by Mexico, which also refused a request last week to let a U.S. military aircraft land with migrants. Ultra-billionaryo Ramon Ang continues to work on improvements at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport to improve its services to travelers. Francis Falve filed this report.
Former Senator and former Trade Secretary Mai Rodriguez was surprised to see San Miguel Corporation's chairman and ultra-billionaryo Ramon Ang at the NAIA tarmac early Sunday morning, just as he arrived from Capiz.
Yan ang paring Ramon Ang. Linggong-linggo ng umaga. Ayan ha, Sunday 1:26, 7:44, nandito sa airport.
In September 2024, San Miguel officially took over the operations of NAIA under new NAIA Infracorp, or NNIC, for the rehabilitation of the country's main gateway. One of the expected improvements is the expansion of the passenger terminal buildings, or PTBS, additional aircraft parking bays, more parking spaces, installation of world-class system and technology, and better land transport connectivity. Ramon Ang shared his plans with Rojas.
Ito po yan, hanggang dito. It can handle initially, temporarily, 6 million passenger per year.
Wow.
Habang ginagawa yung concourse. Yung concourse extension, good for 12 passenger boarding bridge. Yan. So,
Para mabilis,
mabilis.
kumbiniyente.
Within 3 months, tapos na yan.
San Miguel-led NNIC promises to increase NAIA's capacity from 35 million to 62 million passengers annually. The project will also create 58,000 new jobs for Filipinos. San Miguel is investing 144 billion pesos in the NAIA rehabilitation over a 15-year concession period with a possible 10-year extension. From Terminal 2, the rehabilitation will also cover the adjacent Philippine Village Hotel.
Yan yung Philippine Village.
Kailangan niya ma-demolish na yan. Kanya lang, dahil sa mga legal problem ng gobyerno with mga nag-lease dyan, 20 taon na may problema. Ngayon pa lang daw masesettle according to Secretary Jimmy Bautista. Yan.
para ngayon, anong gagawin dyan? Another terminal?
Hindi, diretso na yan. Extension na ito.
So itong Terminal 2, tuloy-tuloy na,
Tuloy-diretso.
sasakupin yan.
Hanggang
So,
dulo.
With these changes, NAIA will increase its passenger capacity by 12 million to meet the 35 million domestic and international passenger targets.
Pero kayang-kaya. Sandali lang yan. Nakita mo, 3 months pa lang, marami na tayo nagawa. Nakita mo. So, we will quickly build a bus gate for 6 million passenger dito habang tinatayo yung Terminal 5. Tapos na yan. Sandali lang, sir.
Okay.
While rehabilitating NAIA, San Miguel is also constructing the 740 billion pesos New Manila International Airport in Bulacan, expected to be completed by 2028. Changes in terminal usage will be Terminal 1 for international low-cost carriers, Terminal 2 and 5 for all domestic flights, while Terminal 3 for long-haul international carriers.
Yung curbside, departure and arrival curbside, in-expand natin yung arrival curbside. Gagawin natin yan 12 lane at nakabubong. Kahit bumabagyo at umuulan, makita mo, meron yan A, B, C, D island. So doon ka na nag-aantay para pag tinawag mo yung driver mo, in 5 minutes nandiyan na yung kotse mo. Tapos we will have enough parking for cars and driver waiting for their passenger arrival.
Rojas also asked about installing passenger boarding bridges or tubes for domestic flights, such as those to and from Capiz, to prevent weather-related travel disruptions. Ang confirmed this is part of their considerations for the project. Francis Polbe, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Good news for motorists on the last week of January. We can expect a rollback after 3 straight weeks of fuel price hikes. Industry sources say gasoline prices may go down to 1 peso a liter starting tomorrow, January 28th. Diesel may have price cuts of as much as 55 centavos a liter and 50 centavos for kerosene. The Energy Department says the opening of oil refineries and ports in the U.S. Gulf Coast are the factors behind the impending price cuts. Philippine foreign borrowings declined last year. Data from the Bangko Sentral shows it went down by 5.6% to $13.68 billion. The figure is $810 million lower than the $14.49 billion recorded in 2023. The BSP explains this is due to lower project loans and programs that mitigate the increase in global bond issuance. Honda Philippines Incorporated will recall more than 6,000 vehicles sold in the country amid fuel leaks and steering concerns. The recall affects the 2024 CR-V model, the 2022 to 24 Civic 4D models, and 280 units of the Civic Type R model. If any leaks are detected, the fuel pumps will be replaced. The company will repair the steering gearboxes free of charge. Honda has confirmed there have been no reports of accidents or crashes linked to these issues. The Department of Agriculture, or DA, allocates 3 billion pesos to build 99 cold storage facilities across the country. The DA explains the move aims to extend the shelf life of agricultural products and trim farm losses. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tiu Laurel said the 1.5 billion peso allocation came from its budget for this year under the General Appropriations Act, while the other half came from the 2024 unprogrammed funds approved by President Marcos. The construction of large storage facilities is expected to take 18 to 22 months once contracts are awarded. We're taking a quick break. Stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Trading at the Philippine Stock Exchange opened earlier. Let's look at the initial figures. The main index currently trading at 62.86 from Friday's close of 62.96. Sub-indices in the red are the all shares down 0.19, financials down by 0.44, industrial 0.33, services 0.77, mining and oil 0.37. While those heading north are the holding firms, 0.19 property sub-index up by 0.14. So far, value turnover has reached more than 662 million. Currently, advancers are falling behind decliners 58 to 67. Meanwhile, at the foreign exchange market, the peso opens weaker at 58.35 against the dollar compared to its previous close of 58.31. Global trade dynamics are expected to be drastically affected by the policies of the Trump administration. In the second part of Mikey's interview with Manuel Antonio Tihanki, Philippine ambassador to the World Trade Organization, he shares his insights on how these global changes can affect the Philippine economy.
Okay, hi, Ambassador Tihanki. Lots of changes, Trump-induced changes on the global trade front. How do you think it's going to affect the Philippines? There are a lot of categories. It can affect us in exports, in BPO, in foreign direct investments, supply chain disruptions, and there's going to be a shift in regional trade on account of this also. Let's break it down one by one. In terms of exports to the U.S., how might Trump's protectionist policies affect the Philippines?
Well, hopefully we have a very good relationship, strong relationship with the US. We are not a target for their tariffs. So we don't foresee any risk there. Of course, some neighbors in our region may be subject to supply chain disruptions. So we must be ready and nimble to take advantage or provide alternative supply. We must be always prepared and use the ASEAN community as a very important regional supply chain and expand also our investments. By the way, the Philippines is now also an FDI provider. So while we attract FDI, Philippine companies must now also expand their footprint abroad. For example, Double Dragon is already investing in Europe, and then we have investments in the US, and of course in the liquor business. The Philippines is a major player worldwide.
Where do you think the biggest risks and the biggest opportunities lie ahead in 2025 and beyond as the trade dynamics shift?
Especially from the business and economic viewpoint, the biggest risk is always hot war. So we are in increasing geopolitical tensions, but we are at the point of countries pointing to their own interests and not see. So we have some good news with the ceasefire, of course, and we hope, as President Trump announced, his increased goal to be a peacemaker. So that's my biggest risk. In the WTO, we must avoid increased tension and lessen the tension. And then on the greatest opportunity, of course, is there is a great optimism on the capabilities of AI and high tech. And Philippines, being 115 million educated, young, connected, can you believe we have 90 million connected GCash wallets? More than the banking system, as Secretary Ralph Prechter said, more than bank accounts. So this is one big leapfrog opportunity for the Philippines. It helps in agriculture.
Yeah.
It helps in. It actually can help anywhere. So when the Mint and Grab Philippines, they're all excited because it can help farmers in the agriculture sector. The AI can help farmers.
Yeah, and you say this because they're with you in the
sector,
Philippines.
we have 3D printing. In the defense and intelligence sector, everything is possible with this height. Larry Summers is here in Davos, and in his one of the talks, in the many talks here in Sandbox, he said the machine learning and AI is like the discovery of electricity. It is a major landmark.
Yeah, how can the Philippines capitalize on that? And again, you mentioned members of the private sector that are with you in the delegation, Grab, GCash, what is it?
The excitement is infrastructure. High tech involves, we need energy. And of course, renewable energy. We have 100 green lighted renewable energy projects open to 100% foreign investment. We must bring power costs down and of course invest in infrastructure. agriculture infrastructure, roads, cables. I think infrastructure is the best public-private sector partnership, which the Marcos administration is embracing fully.
Okay. And as we embrace all of these things amidst a changing economic landscape in trade and all many other fronts, what is your outlook for trade, global trade and Philippine specific, sir?
At the WTO, we're semi-optimistic. Trade has been growing since the pandemic ended, and Philippines is 5.8 GDP growth. Secretary of Finance predicting 6 to 7% growth, especially with interest rates easing. Philippines has consistent growth for the past 20 years. That's why ASEAN and WTO always cites us as the second fastest growing economy in ASEAN after Vietnam.
Yeah.
So we have to be nimble. The changes are happening, but ideally these changes are for the better.
Okay, yeah, well, change, that's something that we all need to be prepared for on every front. Thank you so much for your time, Ambassador Tihanki.
Thank you. Have a good day.
And that's it for Business 360. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.